This is one of a series of videos that will help you memorize your Al-Kitab textbook vocabulary to help you prepare for your Arabic 131 course. We are finishing off the lesson 4 vocabulary. This word, kul, 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 it has one of three meanings. Either it means all, the word all, it can mean the word each, or it can mean the word every. The word each or the word every. Kul followed by the word the, kul, and then the plural form of a word of a noun will take the meaning all. So al kutub, kul al kutub means all the books. Kul al kutub, all the books. So you take kul, you add the word the, and then you use the plural form al-jama. Al-jama means plural of a noun. In this case, kul al-kutub, and then kul means all. Kul al-kutub. And if you don't use the word the, if the prefix the is not it's not following kul, and you use the singular form of a noun, then the word means each or every. So al-mufrad means the singular form, the singular al-mufrad. So if you say kul kitab, kul kitab, kitab means a book. Kul kitab means each book, or it means every book. Kul kitab, kul kitab, each book. Kitab is the singular form. It's not preceded by the word the, so you know it. Kul means each or every. Our next vocabulary word is the first instance that you're going to be introduced to conjugating for the past tense. So if I can build this slide out, you will see that we have the letter ta on almost all of these words listed as a suffix, and it's in red font or red ink, um, the red color font. What this indicates to you is when we conjugate for past tense, when we're taking a verb and we're saying that someone did something, someone performed an action, and it happened in the past. It's called a perfect tense or past tense, meaning the action is completed. Um, in this case, when we're conjugating for past tense, we use suffixes. Now, I know when we were conjugating for present tense, we were using in every single instance a prefix, right? We were adding something to the front of the word, right? But now, and there were a few instances that we added suffixes to the end of the word. We added something to the end of the word. But when you're conjugating for past tense, in practically every single instance, you're only adding a suffix. In one instance here, you'll see for he, we don't add anything at all, right? We just leave the core form of the verb. But in all the other instances we are not adding prefixes, we're not adding something to the beginning of the word, to the beginning of the verb. We are only adding suffixes. We're adding something to the end of the word to indicate who performed the action in the past. To indicate who performed the action in the past, we are adding a suffix, an ending to the end of the verb. So in this case, you see we have the verb to be, and you might be thinking, well, I thought that we almost never say the word is in Arabic. It's always implied, whether it's is or are or am or which are all derivatives of the verb to be. And yes, that would be correct. In most instances, we do not we imply the word is implied. But this is the word that we use when we don't imply the word is. And in this case, if you want to say someone did something in the past or someone used to do something in the past, then you use this verb to be, right? And the verb is Kana, kana, kana with a kaf. Kana. Kana means to be. It's the verb to be, but it also means he did or he used to do. It means he did or he used to do, right? So if you want to say, and by the way, the reason why we have a red box over the aleph in the middle of the word here, you remember it's a triliteral root system. So Arabic has almost all words come from a three-letter root. In this case, the root, this verb, this three-letter root, it's a hollow verb, meaning we have a long vowel in the middle. And I'm not going to get into the complexity of the fact that all three-letter roots are consonants, but when we depict them, sometimes we transform those consonants into long vowels. I'm not going to get into that complexity, but what you have here is a hollow verb, which means if it looks like there's a long vowel in the middle of the word, you might lose that letter when you start conjugating that verb. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. We are going to lose that letter, that aleph, when we conjugate in the first person and in the second person for the singular forms and the plural forms. But we will not lose that aleph. We will keep that aleph when we conjugate in the third person for the singular and the plural forms. So we're going to start out by losing the aleph, right? Because we're going to start out with the first person, right? So here, if I want to say I was doing something or I used to do something, I want to say, by the way, this would be followed by a present tense conjugation. For instance, the verb dhahaba, right? We would follow this past tense conjugation by the present tense conjugation of another verb. So if you want to say I was doing something, right? So let's start out with I was or I used to. Ana kuntu. Ana kuntu. So I was, and then what were you doing? Ana kuntu adhab. I was going. Or ana kuntu adhab also means I used to go, right? So the kuntu is conjugated in past tense, and then the verb that used to be done or was or had been done, that was done, you would conjugate that in present tense. Adhab, right? Ana kuntu adhab. Now that's for I used to or I was, right? What about if it was you masculine? Instead of kuntu, it's kunta. Notice how we lost the aleph here as well. Kunta, kunta. Anta kunta tadhab. Anta kuntu tadhab. You were or used to go, right? What about you feminine? Anti kunti tadhabin. Anti kunti tadhabin. Anti kunti tadhabin. And so you were or used to go. And then if it was him, remember, this is once we move to third person, you're going to keep that aleph. So now we're back into third person. You're going to keep that aleph. And in the case of he did something, you're not going to add a suffix. You're not going to add a prefix. You're not going to add anything. You're just going to use that core form of the verb. You're going to say, Huwa kana yadhab. Huwa kana yadhab. Huwa kana yadhab. He used to go, or he was going. Now, once you switch to the feminine here, hiya kanat. Hiya kanat tadhab. Hiya kanat tadhab. She used to or she was going. Hiya kanat tadhab. Hiya kanat tadhab. What about the plural forms? Remember, for our first person and second person, we have to lose that aleph. We lose the middle. It's a hollow verb. We lose that middle long vowel looking letter. So we have nahnu kunna, nahnu kunna, nahnu kunna. We lost the aleph, right? And notice the suffix here is a second noon and an aleph, right? We were, or we used to, nahnu kunna nadhab. We were going. نحن كنا نذهب. We used to go. Now let's go to the second person. We're going to, in the second person, we're going to lose that aleph as well. Um, Remember, you all is antum. So antum kuntum. And our suffix here is tum, right? It's tum. Kuntum. Antum kuntum. Kuntum. Antum kuntum. And then that they used to go, or you all used to go. So it's antum kuntum tadhabun. Antum kuntum tadhabun, right? Now, here, our last one is third person, right? So we switch to third person and we take the aleph back. We don't lose that middle letter anymore, right? We bring it back. So now it's hum kanu, hum kanu. Now you might notice there's another aleph at the end. So our suffix here is a wow and then it's an aleph. That's our suffix, our ending to make it a past tense conjugation, right? Now, that last aleph, I hope this isn't too confusing. That's a silent aleph. You will not pronounce that last aleph. The aleph inside the verb, yes, you will pronounce it. It's canu, right? But the last aleph there, it's a silent aleph. You do not pronounce it. So you'll pronounce the wow before it, ooh, but you will not pronounce the aleph at the end. So it's hum kanu yadhabun. Hum kanu yadhabun. So this is they were or they used to go, right? That aleph at the end is silent. The aleph in the middle is not. It's an ah, right? Hum kanu yadhabun. And then you can say, I used to be him. Kuntuhu. Kuntuhu. Right? We can still add our object pronoun suffixes to the end of the verb after that past tense conjugation suffix. We can add an object pronoun suffix to say that the verb is happening in relation to someone else, right? Kuntuha, I was her, right? I used to be her. Kuntuha. Kuntuhu, I used to be him or I was him. Kuntuha, I used to be her, I was her. And then the verbal noun, the idea, the abstract concept of the verb, of the action. Al-kaun, 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 that is being. Al-kaun jayid, al-kaun jayid, being is good, right? Al-kaun. And your last vocabulary word is the word for meat. This is meat. It's not necessarily beef. It's not necessarily lamb or goat or something. It's just meat in general. But it's not fish and it's not chicken. Laham, laham, laham. And it's, I don't believe it's pork either. Uh, Although, if you can clarify, I could say meat of pork, possibly, but this is laham, laham with a hard exhale H, laham, laham. And then the plural form is lahum, 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 lahum. This could also be camel meat as well, right? And so those are the lessons that we cover in your Arabic 131 course. The next 6 lessons of vocabulary from your Al Kitab textbook will be covered in your Arabic 132 course.